Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. My name is Linda and this is Jar of Marbles. I'm so pleased that you're able to come and join me for a little while. Thank you so much for, your time. I really do appreciate it. This week, I wanted to talk a little bit about a pile of tiny little things. Now, as an aging woman, a day will come when I can no longer do the things that I love to do, and I remind myself of that every day. There are so many things that I love to do, and I can overpower myself at times. This is like not a new trend for me. I've always liked learning new things, and sometimes it all catches up with not enough time to commit to everything, of course. Life is often thought of as a grand, sweeping journey filled with big moments and milestones, but sometimes, as most of us know, as queenagers, it's the little things that make life truly intriguing and interesting. A pile of little tiny things can add up to a rich and fulfilling existence that is unique to each individual. So what are these little things that make life so intriguing? They can be anything from a favourite pen to a quirky hobby. It's the things that bring a smile to your face or a sense of peace to your mind. Here are some examples of the little things that can make life more interesting. These examples from folk I know and know of. Firstly, collecting small items can be fascinating and a rewarding pastime. It could be anything from stamps to vintage postcards, people, or even seashells. I collect stones and rocks, and I've done it for as long as I can remember. Now, I paint many of them. I paint my beloved rock chicks on them. Somehow each one is as an individual, which really works for me on a symbolic level, as all of us, each and every one of us, are an individual and unique, and I love that we all have much to offer. Collecting allows you to appreciate the beauty of small things, create memories, and it can also teach you about history, culture, and geography. Crocheting has taken on a life of its own now with groups and some amazing designs. Jewellery making, so many designs again and interesting mediums. I just love it. I love photography, clothes design, sewing, love. I love recording music, original music, national and international collaborations, internet, making so much possible. Gardening, the joy of watching things grow and nurture. Oh, it's just lovely. I do like it. You really do, don't you? Yes, I do, Bob, I do. At primary school, I was targeted for my singing and plonked on top of a desk to sing my little Scottish ditties. As when I started school, having Scottish parents, I still had quite a strong Scottish accent, which, obviously faded over time when I was going to school in New Zealand. And I would sing songs like Donald, Where's Your Trousers, and A Scottish Soldier. And I was raised with all sorts of beautiful Scottish artists, and over time, and then it was then high school, I was fortunate enough to have some lead roles in a rock opera and other shows, and when I was around 13, I started teaching myself to play the guitar. I'd see other musicians place their fingers on the chords. My father was a guitarist, so I'd just watch him, and so I'd remember the placement of where he put his fingers, and then I would practice on my own guitar, which I bought myself a job that I managed to get, and so they saved up, bought my first guitar, and I literally played it until my fingers bled. Oh, no, not blood. Yes, Bob, it was dedication then. They were the calluses. Oh, ouch. Yeah, so anyone that plays a guitar knows that you sort of need, hard skin on your fingertips to be able to, do the chords over a period of time. So for years I had no idea that my chords had names, and further to that there were so many more chords to learn. I didn't know any songs I could play, so I just started writing my own music on the guitar. I thought that's what you did, and that has literally never stopped. It was funny though if I was ever getting together with a crowd of friends and maybe we were, having a jam together, some would bring out their guitars and then someone would say to me, "Oh, that song of yours is in an A?" To which I would say, "Yes." I had zero idea what I had just, been asked, and I was just lucky in that instance that it was the chord A. Years later, and a couple of bands later, I was in a band called Chrome Lady. There were the two Carls. One was my boyfriend, an insanely talented guitarist and bass player, and the other Carl, incredible keyboard player, and he was Alice's boyfriend. And at the time, Alice and I were just bust friends, and when we weren't playing in pubs, we all got around together, going to the river, and the boys would go eel spearing, and the boys were very outdoor mad, and then there was Albie, who was a very talented drummer. He was quite a bit older than us and said very little, but very easy to be around. Greg, who was a lead singer, was full of vim and a really good guy. I was the other lead singer, so our practices were literally writing our own music, and we could fill the pubs with ease. Very cool days. And as it stands, Carl, the keyboard player, and I are the only ones that are alive from Chrome Lady. The band, we have just started collaborating again after 43 years. Oh my goodness. I know, right? So cool. I'm so excited about it. Watch this space. I am so lucky that I have recordings from those days, 1981 to be specific, and it was a recording on a cassette, and a friend of mine converted them and put them onto a CD disc for me, which is amazing. Oh, a cassette, what's that? I'll tell you later, Bob. It has to be mentioned that this episode is episode 52. Cheers, 1 year of podcasting. I am so proud of myself that I've done it. And further to that, I have loved this so much with my co-host, Bob. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. No, that's just lovely. Thank you. It really has been fabulous and fun beyond words. And it is the pile of tiny little things amongst my favourite thing to do. So massive thank yous to all of us, new and old, who have supported the podcast and enjoyed the fun of it as much as I do. Thank you. I truly am grateful. Finding joy in simple pleasures can also add a kind of intrigue to your life. A cup of tea or coffee in the morning, a warm bath at night, or a good book before bed can make your days feel more satisfying. It's about taking time for yourself, isn't it? And enjoying the tiny little moments that make life worth living. Often as I sit out early in the morning drinking a cup of tea, I've not long had my fresh orange and ginger shot. I've eaten a kiwi fruit. I'm sitting under my lemon tree listening to the bees buzzing if they're around. A couple of tiny lizards saunter on by on the wall that I'm sitting on. They're so used to me that they don't even bother to run. It's just such a delight, and I breathe in deeply the morning fresh air, and I get a sense of the day. I feel expectant with anticipation for the day. It sounds cheesy and it may sound trite, but it's real, and it's how I start my day often. Hashtag a pile of tiny little things. Developing a new skill or hobby can add excitement to your life. Could be learning to play a musical instrument, taking up photography, or even knitting. These small activities can bring a sense of accomplishment and provide a creative outlet. Building relationships with others is another little thing that can make life more interesting. I think that I do interesting things. Do you, Bob? Yes. I mean, yes. So what was it you wanted to tell me, Bob? Because you've stopped me in my track. Well, I wanted to tell you about my opera song. I've written another opera song. Oh, have you? Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you let us have it, Bob? Okay. Bob, that was absolutely beautiful. I thought that was great. Did you really? I really did, Bob. That was just really lovely little tone on the back end of me, expressing my gratitude to everyone for episode 52, 1 year's worth of podcast. So thank you so much for that, Bob. Oh, you're welcome. I've actually put a little something together too, just a little bit of fun, Bob, because I suspected that you would have gone ahead and done a little something. So here's my little rendition of, episode 52 for Jar of Marbles. Oh, I can't wait. Me neither, Bob. It's 1 year how Jar of Marbles came on and on and on. Is that it? Well, yeah, I said it was only going to be a little something. Oh, it got me all excited. Oh, that's all right, Bob. Anyway, building relationships with others is another little thing that can make life more interesting. It could be joining a club, volunteering, or simply reaching out to a friend. human connections bring meaning and depth to our lives, don't they? And even small interactions can just make such a difference. I was having a manicure the other week, and there was a lady sitting next to me who must have been the best part of 80-something, and she had on this yellow sort of jersey with a yellow puff jacket, and she had on this gorgeous sort of animal print scarf. She had a lipstick going on, and she had matching blue nail polish on her toenails and her hands, and she just looked fabulous. And I told her so, because I just can't help myself. And she said, I just dress for comfort. And I said, well, you really stand out and you look awesome. You rock. And she said, oh, thank you. But the thing was, it was a two-way thing. She felt great. I felt great. And she was just smiling, from ear to ear, which was so lovely. And finally, taking care of yourself is another little thing. I mean, I really shouldn't say finally. It's this whole self-care thing, just like that lady was displaying, can just make life so much more interesting. I know I received a call last week from a lady that I had met just before the pandemic came, and I got this message. It was like, "Hi, Linda, this is Alicia. I'm the old bird you picked up in the car park. You said that you liked my outfit. Would you be interested in getting together for a coffee?" And I said, yes, I would love that. And what had happened was, she said when we did get together for a coffee a few days later, that she had found an old notebook under her desk and opened it up, and there was my name and my phone number. And what had happened when I'd met her, I think it was back in 2020 or 2019, I was sort of walking quietly alongside her as we were going to go into this mall, and she just looked amazing. And I told her so, and she was so delighted by that. She then said, "Oh, well, what are you doing when you're going in here?" It was just really friendly conversation. I said, "I'm probably going to have a cup of coffee." She said, "Oh, why don't we have one together?" I said, "Well, why don't we?" And we did. So, but the interesting thing about that is, when I met up with Alicia, I think it was last week now, we just got talking about a number of subjects, and what an interesting lady and such an interesting life. And turned out we had so much in common. And I just casually mentioned, what I was doing with the podcast and music and this and that, and how I would have loved to have learnt the piano, play a little by ear, but nothing that, you'd be bragging about, and nothing that I'd be doing, because I can't read music, but I've been writing music all my life. And, I play the piano, said Alicia. So guess what? I've went and bought my piano beginner's book, and I'm now getting piano lessons. Hasn't actually begun, but we are going to be getting together, and Alicia's going to teach me piano. And I am so ever grateful, because that was something that I didn't realise I had sort of put away as one of those things that I'm not going to get to do after all, So, but I am. So I'm so excited. Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Do like a good applause, right? I mean, the thing is, as I have said in other podcasts before, you might be waiting a long time for an applause, so why don't you just give yourself one? Very happy to hand them out. Just let me know anytime. I'll just press this little button here. Oh, it's a wonderful thing. No, truly it is, truly. But anyway, again, as we go through this podcast this week, and we're talking about, all those tiny little things, the piles of tiny little things, these are all on an individual basis, are all really remarkable, wonderful things that we give to ourselves as gifts, that in turn are giving others a gift as well. And company, and the exchange of information, feeling worthwhile, feeling like you matter, feeling liked just because you're you. It's all that good stuff. I love all that stuff. I do. I hope you do too. Life is filled with tiny little things that we barely notice. It could almost be suggested that we, the human race, can take things for granted. We're not noticing these tiny little things that actually mean so much and are really important. that lovely fresh air we breathe in the morning when we're leaving for the gym. Yes, it's cold, and so it should be as we're, creeping toward winter, but nonetheless, not fighting against the humidity, which is forever awful, and being able to breathe in fresh, cool air is preferred. It could be a friend that you haven't heard from for a while. Reach out that they miss you and cannot wait to see you again. The sun could be shining the perfect heat. The moon shines a little brighter. The kiwi fruit you ate is the perfect sweetness. You hear your favourite song on the radio. The tiny little things that make you walk a little taller. I caught myself dancing as I was putting the finishing touches to some of my rock chicks. I was outside at my workbench. I had the radio going. I leave it on all day for the garden because the plants like music. And I'd finished painting, had a little boogie, and I felt just great. I could feel the happiness just coursing through me. Haircut's always good, or a trim. Having your hair washed by someone else and a good scalp massage. Oh, in that moment, it's heaven, and I don't ever want it to stop. That feeling that comes over you when you understand a new skill, you fleetingly remember when you had no idea and now you know it well. That is a surefire sign that you're growing, and it's a little thing, but it really means a lot. Hashtag a pile of tiny little things. I am presently, for example, I'm learning new software if I am to go to the next stage of my learning, and I have hit a wall after wall. I remember well when I was learning a year ago other software that I had blocks of time that I honestly didn't know what I was doing or didn't know how I had done something. I couldn't understand my notes. I knew so little that I had no idea what questions to ask if I actually even had someone to ask. But then one day the light returns to the brain and you start to understand. So now my brain likes the challenge because I know I will learn it. It's time. It is a time thing. And how much I apply myself, because one day the light does go on. And man, that's a fab feeling. As of May of 2022, last year, according to Reliable Plant, only 20% of people set goals for themselves, which means that 80% of people don't set goals. And what's even more unfortunate is that out of the 20% of people who do set goals, only about 30% of people will succeed. That means that only a third of those people who set goals actually achieve them, and of all people, that makes 6%. Setting goals is definitely a good idea if you want to make your life better, though. People who have goals are 10 times more likely to succeed. I just love that. Dr. Gail Matthews conducted a study that showed clearly that people who write down their goals are more likely to achieve them. In fact, you are 42% more likely to reach your goals if you write them down. Dr. Matthews' study, 61% of goals that were written down were achieved. That's mammoth. And taking the extra action, such as sharing your goals with a good friend, increases this number. It's also worth noting that in 90% of studies, setting specific and challenging goals led to much better results. Interesting, very. That's so interesting. It is, Bob. It actually is quite amazing. Have you ever looked back at times where things flowed in your life, events, and the right people seemed to come your way? I like to think back and try, remembering what I was actually thinking and doing and writing, when I recall how things just fell into place at different times in my life. And I try to recall if I had any awareness about being goal-orientated. I do this because there may be something I can use now in my life today. I've always been a bit of a prolific writer, and I do tend to write about what I can see happening or what I would like to see unfold. And it's not hard to imagine it when you're kind of doing it already or gearing up for a new direction. And to be frank, I also tend to write a lot of malarkey too, just loose change out of the brain as I see it. The point is, if you don't have to be a writer to just write it out. People I've spoken to about this subject, if they get past the block of not being a writer, they can really learn lots. And besides, what you write is for your eyes only. I use this podcast quite a bit as an example from a number of angles because, well, I'm doing it and I'm thinking and planning. I show up every week. I honestly do my best and I think about it a lot. I am devoted and absolutely love doing it. And the payoff is if someone is enjoying it, then I am just thrilled to bits, just to absolute bits. Bits? That's right, Bob, bits. I'm of the mind, if I can do it, You can do it. Whatever it is you'd like to do. When life gets messy, complex and unfun, as it does on occasion, take heart, it'll pass. But until it does, this is when the little things can be so appealing and soothing. I've heard myself say more than once in the last few years, it's the little things, normally followed by a sigh, because the big things can be burdensome to even consider other alternatives. If you're weighed down by things that are out of your control, life can simply just be, at times, a hard-hitting gig. There's no doubt about it, Marble Dwellers. All of us are going to go through that no matter what. It's just how we go through it, I guess. So that lovely coffee in the morning, the friendly hello from someone you don't really know, can be enough to make you feel like it's all going to be okay. It's so true, isn't it? Lifts your spirits a bit when you need it. Hashtag a pile of tiny little things. As I sat outside admiring the garden, I noticed that the beetroot had started to spring forth, as were the radishes. The lavender I'd planted was looking healthy, as is the aloe vera. The spinach and dandelions I'm growing to make fresh dandelion tea. The oregano patch had a haircut lately. I've dried a big pile of it on the outside table, covered with newspapers and rock checks to weigh it all down. I spent a little bit of time in the afternoon rubbing the leaves from the woody stalks and eventually smooched it all into granules and then put it into a jar. This is a tiny little thing for me. The potent aromas of the oregano, the sunshine on my back. It was lovely, and fresh dried oregano for the remaining of the year. I've got a joke. Oh, well, let's have it, Bob. Why are husbands like lawnmowers? Not sure, Bob. They're difficult to get started. They emit bad smells and don't work half the time. Oh, that's not bad, Bob. I've got one for you. Did you hear about the two florists that got married? No, it was an arranged marriage. I just don't know whether I'm Bob or myself at times. It can all be a bit confusing. Yeah, I didn't find that very funny. Well, we're even then, aren't we, Bob? Yeah. Boiling rosemary twigs in the double boiler for my hair tonic. I make it for one of my daughters as well as a final rinse after washing her hair. And after you're finished, you just throw a bottle of this, rosemary water through. And I tell you what, it is so heavenly. It's a lovely practice, and the result is strong, thick hair that grows like a weed. Fantastic for scalp health as well. I used to suffer really badly with psoriasis on my scalp. No longer. No any signs of any of that, no itchiness. And so, yeah, I'm going to be keeping that one up. My fantastic black globes, that's what I call my eggplants. I'm not really a big fan of eggplants, but I do like them in my slow cooking and casseroles and soups. And that's that certain tiny satisfaction that it's out of my garden. Hashtag a pile of tiny little things. I don't feel like I've really touched the sides with this subject. It's an important subject, I feel, though, keeping mindful of your self-care, habits and rituals. 1 year, 52 episodes today, 1 year of podcasting. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Bob. Thank you so much. And now I enter into my second year. I am so pleased I started, and to think really I have just begun. Congrats to both of us, Mrs. Marble. Yes, for sure, Bob. So are you planning on hanging around with me for another year? Oh, yes, please. Fantastic, Bob. I'm just so pleased. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, stop it. And that's the end of another podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it and so pleased that you came. This is year 1, done, tick. Let's go for year 2. Thank you for those who support Jar of Marbles. I mean, it just means the absolute world to me. Hashtag a pile of tiny little things. Turns out none of these things are tiny little things, are they, Marble Dwellers? Turns out these tiny things are many things that make us and the things that sustain us and make life a little bit more lovely in tiny spots. Well, Marble Dwellers, Queen Ages, before we go, let's just take a moment to appreciate the piles of tiny little things that make our lives so significant, quaint, gorgeous and sweet. Each one of us is unique, just like those little trinkets, those magical observations and curiosities that adorn our lives, reminding us of who we are and where we've been. So let's cherish those quirky little things and remember that they're not just clutter. They're expressions of our individuality. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep those piles of tiny things growing. Say g'day to the family for me, give the horse a kiss, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.